Back on. All right, I'd like to call this meeting June 27th, 2022 of the East Brunswick Township Council Action and Agenda Meeting to order. Would everyone please stand and salute the flag and remain standing for a moment of silence?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please take your seats. Ms. Lawful, please call the roll.
Councilmember Hall?
Here.
Councilman McAvoy?
Here.
Councilwoman Sullivan? Here. Councilwoman Zambicki? Here. And Council President Wendell?
Yes, here.
Also present, Mayor Brad Cohen?
Here.
Administrator Joseph Friscullo?
Here.
And Township Attorney Michael Baker?
Here.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as required under Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, by specifying the time, date, location, and to the extent known, the agenda, by posting a copy on the bulletin board located in the main lobby of the East Brunswick Municipal Building, providing a copy to the Home News Tribune and Sentinel newspapers, posting a copy on the Township's website, and by filing a copy in the office of the Township Clerk, which will be entered into the minutes.
Thank you. First item of business tonight is the approval of our meeting minutes. Resolution 17435, a resolution adopting meeting minutes of June 13th, 2022.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Thank you from Council Vice President McAvoy and Councilman Bahal. Any discussion on this, or anybody want to make any changes to this? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Hall?
Yes.
Councilman McAvoy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zambicki?
Yes.
And Council President Wendell?
Yes. Is there anyone here tonight for our proclamation acknowledging National Parks and Recreation Month? No? Okay. Councilwoman Zambicki, since you're the liaison to the Recreation Parks Advisory Board, I asked you to read this, so please, read it into the record.
Thank you. My honor. Thank you. So this is the proclamation for Parks and Recreation Month. It says, whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including East Brunswick. And whereas Parks and Recreation promote health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near our parks. And whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorder, and Alzheimer's. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for popular sports, biking trails, swimming pools, and many other designated to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas our parks and nature recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, now therefore be it proclaimed that Mayor Brad Cohen of the East Brunswick Township and the Township Council do hereby recognize July as Park and Recreation Month and express deep gratitude to Michael Reisner and all of his employees. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next, we move on to our ordinances for second hearing. Ordinance 2215, an ordinance of the Township of East Brunswick amending Chapter 3, Administration, Legislation, Administration of Government, Section 38, additional functions to authorize the Township Clerk to act as the issuing authority to approve the granting of raffle and bingo licenses. Now, in the past, and I thank you to our new clerk, Ms. Lawful, in the past, every license, raffle, bingo, 50-50, any of these licenses had to come before council separately to be approved. And Ms. Lawful has brought to our attention that this can be done by ordinance once a year to allow, in a more expedient fashion for these nonprofit organizations, to allow them to be issued under her guidance and her approval. And I think this is a fantastic thing. It used to take not only a lot of time in our meetings, but it took time for these organizations to get approvals. And we've never turned one down, I believe, in all the 12 years I've been sitting here. So I think this is a great thing. Can I get a motion on this?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilwoman Zambicki. Second? Sorry. Thank you, Councilwoman Sullivan. Ms. Lovell, would you like to add anything to what I said, or did I kind of cover it?
I think you responded, or you answered, you reported correctly. So essentially, this particular ordinance will allow the clerk to issue bingos and raffle licenses without the council's approval. By doing it by ordinance permits the township clerk to issue those licenses unless there has been any changes to the ordinance to change that method going forward. But for the most part, it creates a expeditious way of issuing raffles and bingo licenses by not adding a resolution to the next scheduled council agenda. So I think a lot of the applicants will be very appreciative of this ordinance.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Councilwoman Sullivan.
Yes, can you just explain now how a person in a nonprofit will go through the steps if this is approved, please?
The process is exactly the same for profit or nonprofit.
Okay.
They still have to go through the 14-day wait-in period, which is statutory. And if there are no objections from the state, then the license can be issued and utilized.
Okay, so it's 14 days from when you first walk in with everything?
Right.
Get the paperwork?
So once they submit the application to the clerk's office, they have to submit supporting paperwork, such as their certification, and there is a background check that has to be done, and then there is a 14-day waiting period before the license itself can be issued.
And all of these applicants need to have a legalized games of chance license from the state, issued from the state of New Jersey. This is a local requirement, correct?
That is correct. So in order for you to apply for a bingo or a raffle license, you have to have a legalized game of chance license in order to apply. We do require that each applicant submit a copy of their license so that we have that for our record. This particular ordinance just allow the clerk to issue the license without the governing body's approval. So essentially, the governing body is given the township clerk the authority to approve the license on their behalf.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
Council President, you had said before our clerk was given the floor, and I quote you, her guidance, her approval, but there's statutory law. Mr. Baker, I'm twisting this over to you. I'm sure there's statutory law that governs everything that our clerk is going to be doing. That's fine, and that's going to expedite a number of things and move the process along. But legally, is it the correct direction to go?
It's fine legally, and it does make sense in terms of government efficiency. There are some things that statutorily we're allowed to delegate to the clerk. There are also things we delegate to the tax assessor. And this is one of those things that can be delegated to her, and she still has to follow the law.
That's correct.
Even without us looking over her shoulder.
Thank you, Mr. Baker.
And just one more, if you may, Mayor. We are the governing body that does, in fact, create the laws, so I understand that this particular ordinance will set in motion a deviation, but a legal one. Are you good with the direction we're going here?
Yeah, I think that it's an efficiency thing. It doesn't bypass any of the laws that we're required to follow, and I think for applicants it's going to make the process a lot quicker and user-friendly. And at the beginning of every year when we reorganize, these are the times that we often delegate certain roles to different township officials. This would be something that we would do going forward, that each year we reestablish that this is the role that the clerk has the ability to follow as long as she follows the law. You're essentially giving her the right to not have to come to the governing body for the final approval. And I think that from a town standpoint, it makes things a little bit more efficient, one less thing to add to a council agenda, but more importantly, for the applicants, it simplifies the process.
Thank you, Council President.
Agreed. And to that point, I mean, there was many, many nights where we would have 7, 8, 9, 10 raffle licenses on the agenda, and, you know, I mean, some of those people would wait 4 weeks to get on the agenda or something, and, you know.
Council President, for the public also, the applicants for these licenses are churches, synagogues, VFWs, social clubs, and the like. So it will assist those local East Brunswick organizations.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this ordinance and this ordinance only? Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this ordinance and this ordinance only? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion. Would you please call the roll?
Will do. Councilman Bahal?
Yes.
Councilman McAvoy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zimbricki?
Yes.
And Council President Wendell?
Yes. We're going to move on to our report section. We're going to go to the mayor first.
Thank you, Council President. First, a hearty congratulations to the East Brunswick class of 2022, which graduated this past week. It was, from what I see, it was, as always, a beautiful ceremony, sort of a tearjerker for those who have kids graduating. I don't know why that happens, but it's just, you see your kid up there and it's just the waterworks start. But it was a great event as usual, and so congratulations to all of those graduates and those from elementary that are moving up, and those that are in Hammersholt moving up, and those that are in Churchill. It's all great, and we all have to admit that the last 2 years were such a difficult period of time for them to go through, and one that they will certainly never forget. So I wish all of them, and I'm sure the council as well, the best in the future. Wanted to also notify the public that after many years, in fact, coming into office in 2017, I was promised that the state was going to actually start working on repaving and redoing most of Route 18, and every year was another reason why they couldn't do that. And so we did finally get word that they are very close to the process of getting started. One of the issues is on the agenda tonight for you to look at and to approve, which is an increase in the amount of money that is going to be allocated from the water utility to cover the water repairs that are going to be done along Route 18 at the same time that the state is coming in and doing the repairs to the highway. As many recall, several years ago there was a bond ordinance and an approval by the Township Council to change water rates in the town, and the main 3 projects that was the cause of that was the water meters, which, as most of you know, we're in the process of doing right now, replacing all of those. The main water line that comes into the township under Route 1, right by Riders Lane and the border of North Brunswick, that is almost 70 years old, and we need to get a duplicate pipe there, and that is a massively expensive project. And then the third thing was the water lines all along Route 18, which are owned and operated and managed by the township. The state is willing to pay and go partners with the township and pay 50% of those costs. If we do not approve the resolution to pay for half, then when it ultimately needs to be done, we will still have to do it, but we will be paying for the whole thing. So as you can see with the increase, the cost is going up because of the increased estimates that they came up with for that actual work. But with all that being said, they are finally ready to get started on those long overdue repairs on Route 18. Exact date, please don't ask me, but we've been told to be ready fairly soon. FYI, there's going to be work that's going to be done primarily at night. They will close down lanes. People will be detoured. All of this stuff will be out on all possible mechanisms of getting the word out to the public. But They are long, long, long overdue repairs, and the estimate last time they had given us was approximately a 3-year project to get that completely done. But that will be starting pretty soon. I thought everybody should know that and be prepared. Also wanted to remind everybody that 4th of July is coming up on the 4th of July, and we're going to have, as usual, the fireworks celebration. It will be 6:30 at night. We'll start with festivities at the Community Arts Center with fireworks when it gets dark enough. And for those of you that were there last year, it was a phenomenal show, much longer than we had done in the past, and we intend to try to do that again. And then finally, I don't know if many of you had a chance to get out there, but I hope you can in the next couple of weeks. There was an exhibition or a reveal of the art sculpture over at Community Arts Center. The president of the Arts Commission, Karen Baum, spent a good portion of the COVID lockdown time and the 2 years of COVID putting together an absolutely breathtaking art piece called 6 Feet Apart. It's a male and female figure, all done in mosaic tiles, and standing, of course, 6 feet apart. And on it are a whole bunch of dedications to people who were instrumental here in East Brunswick in getting us through this crisis. And so it's absolutely beautiful. In the center of it is a red heart that collects solar energy, and at night it lights up, so it's a red heart that lights at night. So it's absolutely beautiful, and she donated that to the Township, and it was revealed last week. And I think if you have an opportunity to get out to the Community Arts Center, that would be a worthy thing to see. And a hearty thank you to her for making that contribution to the Township. Thank you.
Mr. Criscuolo, you're up next, but I would just like to ask you, if you get your pen out and look at your consent agenda, I'd like you to speak to 17436, 37, 38, and 45.
36, 37, and 4.
38, 37, 38 are kind of linked, but,
Okay.
and 4, 5. I just want you to, so that we're, there's a little, understanding from the rest of council and the public.
Okay. First thing on just one other note for July 4th, please obey the directions of the East Brunswick Police Department when you're leaving the facility. There's a specific plan in place. If you are parked at the fairgrounds and you're required to go left towards Route 18. If you are parked at Heavenly Farms and you go out on the Cranberry roadside, you will be required to make a right, not to interfere with the traffic that's coming out of the fairgrounds. If you're going out on Dunham's, you'll be required to go out and make a right. And if you are parked at Heavenly Farms, when you come out, you will be required to make a right. So just, if you need to plan where you're needing to leave, to exit, those directions are on the Recreation Department's Facebook page and website and so on, so people can plan accordingly where they want to park in proximity so when they leave. There's a lot of people there, and if we have everybody going in every direction, it just takes an extended period of time. So just so people know. The number 17436, there was a water main break on Route 18 North, and as the mayor alluded to, when this new water line goes into place, we won't be having these as often, and we needed to get a contractor in to do the work on that, and a bigger part of the cost was for the traffic signing devices that we are required by state law to put out on the state highway. So with that, we declared an emergency to go around the public bidding process because you can't go without water. So I declared the emergency the day after this occurred, and now this is the time just to have the resolution to get it into the minutes.
This is a normal process that we go through for emergency water main breaks that are too big for our employees to handle.
That is correct, sir. 17437 is for a 100% permanently disabled veteran. It is state law that if we have somebody that's 100% disabled veteran, that their property becomes tax exempt.
Yep.
So to effectuate that, the council has to pass the resolution, but it is required by law. Likewise, for 17438, it's the same condition, sir. The 17445, this occurred in the middle of the winter at a parcel of land at the corner of Old Bridge Turnpike and Edgeboro Road, where there was a break in the water pipe and the fire line leading to that particular business. This used to be a bank on the corner there. It was frigid weather. The water department had got in touch with the people that owned the property and so on, and told them they need to rectify this because the water was just rolling right down Edgeboro Road. And as you know, garbage trucks go up and down that road all day long, and it was truly an emergency. So the water and road departments actually went out there and repaired the line, but it was on that person's property.
Right.
And it was their obligation to pay for that. To date, they haven't paid for it yet.
So this is leaning,
So this is putting it on their block and lot as a special charge on their water account for those such repairs.
and the town will collect interest on that until such time as we either sell that lien or sell something.
It's not a lien, it'll show up as
A charge.
a charge if they try to sell the property, and the title company calls the town and asks for the amount.
But like
but
with
that's-
unpaid taxes,
It's not,
the
not,
town collects.
it's not the same.
Oh, really?
It's putting on as a fee.
Okay.
Last
that's
communication,
statutory issue?
I'm sorry.
That's statutory?
This is the way we're authorized to do it.
Okay.
We've been told by the property owner that they've submitted the claim to their insurance company and is waiting an answer. So, but this, we're not going to wait any longer to, at least put it on their account. So if anybody were to purchase that property, they would at least be able to see that there's a charge on there for approximately $17,000.
Or if that applicant came before any of our township land use boards,
That applicant,
we'll
that
have to
property,
pay before we review or hear any application.
that
on the property.
applicant is before the zoning board, and I've asked Mr. Losak after tonight's meeting, and I'll ask our esteemed clerk to forward that to the zoning board and the zoning board attorney after we get this resolution completed this evening.
Okay,
So they'll go on notice.
great.
I also had another question from one of our council people regarding 17441, a professional service contract to Key Tech Laboratories to perform concrete and asphalt testing services. This is necessary when we hire contractors to do curb repair or asphalt some of our roads, and it is definitely a requirement of the TTF funds with the state, is that they pull samples of the concrete when it gets delivered into sampling cases, and it's supposed to meet certain weight and
Design
tension.
strengths.
Right.
Yes.
And so we need to have a lab on retainer, or we bid this out, where we could send these products, they do the testing, and they let us know if they failed the test or passed the test.
They actually send a professional out to the site and pull the cylinders. They fill the cylinders themselves. We do this all the time.
Right.
In my business, it's, it's just customary. When you're not buying the concrete yourself, you don't know what the mix is.
Correct. So this is a laboratory to make sure we keep our contractors honest, and sometimes, people that are doing things from a planning board approval or zoning board approval, we ask them to test. Same thing. So that answers that particular question. And that's all I had for this evening.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Criscuolo. Mr. Baker, anything for that?
Just the update to the council. I have not forgotten about the fireworks issue. I've been in regular touch with the fireworks vendor. After he gets through the 4th of July busy season for him, he's going to be scheduling a date with me to any council members who would like to come out or anyone from the administration to see a demonstration of the new fireworks devices, which he says are much, much quieter, and I guess we'll have to see
And then we can judge
what to do going forward. Correct.
whether to do more outside displays
Or not.
or not.
Correct.
Thank you. Ms. Lawful?
I have nothing to report.
Thank you. We're going to move on to council members' reports. The one thing I'd like to report is a major milestone on Friday. I don't know if anybody's driven by the old Wiz and Cap Shopping Center, but now you can see the marketing scrim has gone up, the fences are up, and the developer actually closed on the property Friday. So that property is not 100% under control of the developer, but he's closed on the largest portion, which is the Gap and the Wiz and all of that. So you're going to start seeing demolition happen within the next few weeks once all of the pre-demolition work occurs. So, and Mr. Criscuolo, you've indicated to me that we are going to do whatever we can from a township perspective to expedite any help from PSC&G to get disconnects and all
Yeah,
that.
the owner of the property should be informed, and that should go through the agency, that they should put in for those disconnects and the removal of the transformers on the property. And once they get the order, the code, the number, get that to me, and I will talk to our government affairs agent and ask them to expedite the removal of those. They haven't been used in years, and they're probably pretty much trashed.
Right.
But they have to be safely removed because there's PCBs and other things in the...
But I just want to indicate that this is a major milestone in the redevelopment of Route 18, and to finally get these properties under control and to have a developer partnership that is moving forward and committed. I believe that within the next several weeks, you'll see a planning board application before the planning, not before the planning board, but probably in August before the planning board. So major growth for East Brunswick, major tax revenues, or, municipal budget enhancements. So I was very happy to hear that the closing occurred on Friday. So thank you all, everyone on the dais here, for all your help, and I think it was a fantastic move for East Brunswick. Any other council, committee, or board reports? Councilman Zabicki.
Thank you. Just 2 quick points. First of all, Crystal Springs had their first full day of the season on Saturday, and they sold out on Sunday, which is wonderful. If you get a chance, please go visit. The ticket sales are online, and they start at 5:30 p.m. the night before, roughly, somewhere between 5:30 and 6. And also, I just wanted to give a thank you to Mr. Criscuolo for being so responsive on a Saturday afternoon, as we had some of our constituents that were upset with signage on Route 18 for fireworks and whatnot, and Mr. Criscuolo was able to get in touch with them and have them removed promptly. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Councilman Sullivan?
Yes, I would like to talk about the garbage problem, or I sort of know that it's not our fault, but there's a lot of residents that have garbage pickups, and the next day they're still there, and sometimes it takes up to 2 days. Could you just explain, Mr. Criscuolo, what is...
Sure. The mayor and I had met with Solterra, which is our garbage company, and they were recently acquired by IWS, a larger firm all over the tri-state area, and look at their website, they're the official garbage haulers of the Yankees, so I found that interesting. They're having a problem all over the area getting people to work for them. You could see it all over the place where people are looking for employees. So we've worked with them with the New Jersey Workforce Development, had a job fair lined up. They sent it out to people that are unemployment, underemployed, and so on. Worked with them. 3 people showed up. They made job offers to all 3 of them, and they did not accept them. So the problem is a systemic problem in that particular industry. Pretty simply, they are prioritizing the garbage pickup because garbage breaks down, it begins to have an odor and so on, where recycling, magazines, cardboard, and stuff like that isn't going to cause a health matter. So a lot of times we're just asking residents to leave the product out at the curb, and these people that work for Solterra, including the management staff, over the last month have been working 7 days a week. I'm in contact with them constantly, and the priority of the garbage collection is the most that we're really trying to attack. They brought in on the Saturdays and Sundays drivers from other areas of the state to try to help out with that garbage collection. These drivers don't know the routes, they don't know the highways and byways of East Brunswick, so on occasion there's been certain roads that have been missed. Mark Coleman, myself, Dan Losek have been doing, and Tracy Ranzio have been doing our best when the residents call in. We get a message out to the firm, especially if it's garbage, to get it picked up. Solterra has the county-wide contract with Middlesex County for recycling, and it's happening everywhere. My recycling day is Tuesday. The last time I had a collection, it was collected on Saturday. So it's just happening all over the place. To add insult to injury, there's also a problem when their garbage trucks break down, they can't get parts. So they're breaking down, and they may be waiting for a part 2 or 3 weeks to come in to get it. And if you go to the, if you go past the firm on Cranberry South River Road, you'll see the parking lot is just filled with trucks, and they're basically waiting for parts. Mm-hmm. The other issue, too, is on Saturdays, the dump closes at noon, so they may be out collecting, and once that truck is full, they have nowhere to dump it until Monday. So now it puts them behind the 8 ball on Monday because they're taking that truck back to their yard, and the first thing they have to do in the morning is to go get online at Edgeboro to dump the product. If they're out on Sunday, and if they're willing to go out on Sunday and all the trucks are full, they can't do it because there's nowhere to dump it. So on Sundays, a lot of times, because the recycling facility is owned by them, but it's all the way up in Kearney, one of their sites, at least they've been able to catch up on the recycling later on Saturday and all day Sunday. So this is a problem that we're well aware of. It's happening all over the place, and it's an issue, and we just ask our residents to be patient with that. And especially if you miss a garbage pickup, if you let us know, we'll get in touch with them. Mm-hmm. Like this morning, they sent us a message at 10 o'clock this morning that Recycling District 5 was not going to be picked up today because 24 of their employees didn't show up today. And they can't just fire them because
They need them.
They need them for the next day. They just hope they show up.
Is there
And
any
there's no
way
one to
that
replace
you
them
could
anyway.
have-
There's nobody to replace them.
No, a phone number, like, because realistically, they're able to come from, like, what, 7 in the morning till dawn, till dusk?
They,
So is there a way that we could have a phone number that, not to bother anybody, just so when they come in the next morning, they could get general areas, Public Works, where it wasn't picked up, and communicate that to them?
Well, what we've actually asked them to do is if they know that they're not going to hit an area, to just let us know that, and then we'll put out a civic ready to those people in the
In that
affected areas so that they know
Right.
that to not expect their garbage to be
Right.
picked up. And most always it's picked up by the
Not
next day.
everyone I'm just saying,
Yeah, the other
just a
thing that
phone
we-
number. I mean, just to make the residents,
The other thing that we did was we asked them whether or not they thought it would make a difference to start earlier, since our ordinances have very specific start times and finish times. And the issue isn't the starting early. The issue is really workforce.
Quality, yeah.
So if we made that change, it probably wouldn't make that much of a difference.
And the issues they run into as well is in the afternoon, the dump is closed. Even if they wanted to continue to pick up, the trucks are full, and they can't get there
Right.
in later hours.
right.
And as a final note, the last two contracts we went out for, we go out to public bidding for our hauler. And each time, and they're 5-year contracts, so the last 2 contract periods, there was all of one bidder that bid for our work. Most of these haulers prefer to do private commercial and private hauling. And so if you go to towns like Old Bridge and many of our surrounding towns, the residents hire their own hauler that come in at all different days, and your service is significantly less compared to what we get to. So we're kind of in a little bit of a bind because we don't really have a ton of vendors to pick from.
There's been recent bid packages put out by municipalities, and they had no responders.
Thank you very
You're
much for
welcome.
their information.
You're welcome.
Any other council committee reports? All right. Seeing that, we'll move on to the open, our public comment session. Ms. Loeffel, will you please read the statement?
The public comment portion of our meeting is to allow the public to bring to the council's attention their concerns or comments. In accordance with NJSA 10:4-12A and the East Brunswick Rules of Council, the council asks the public to limit their comments to 5 minutes or less. The public may use this opportunity to question any item listed on the consent agenda and request that such item be removed from the consent agenda to be discussed and voted on separately. Only one member of the public should approach to speak to council at a time. The council will respect the public's time by refraining from any comment until the speaker has finished with their allotted time. It should be further noted that public comment portion of our meeting is not structured as a question and answer session. At the conclusion of the statements or questions from a member of the public, the council president, at his discretion, may choose to respond or not respond, or to ask the administration to respond. If the questions require more detailed responses, the council president or administration may ask the member of the public to make an appointment with the appropriate township official during regular business hours. The township clerk will regulate the time during the comment portion of our meeting.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wishing to speak? Yes? Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Marina Adams, and my daughter just graduated in the class of 2022.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Is this on?
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Okay, very good. So I have been a resident in East Brunswick since February of 1998. I've raised 2 children here. I reside at 17 Candle Lane. May I present a copy of a picture of my house?
Thank you.
So my neighbors and I are here this evening because both of the properties adjoining my home have been in a state of disrepair for the majority of my 24 years here. So 23 Quaker and 19 Candle Lane.
I know them, so.
I know 23 Quaker.
Okay, so 23 Quaker, that's the house that does not have a mailbox anymore, has been abandoned since I moved in 24 years ago. My neighbors tell me that it's been abandoned actually for about 37 years. That's the house on the corner of Quaker and Candle Lane. 19 Candle Lane has been largely vacant for about 18 years. So the first couple of years after I moved in, I knew the owners. We would socialize. I haven't seen them much lately. The owners claim to live there, but no one has observed them there with more than a frequency of like once every 3 months. And I'm sure that the lack of mail delivered, the water and utility bills and garbage pickup, not to mention the hazardous condition that they would endure if they were actually to spend any time in that house, as well as the fact that they have another very nicely appointed house in Manalapan. My neighbor will talk about that. We'll back up the fact that they have long ago abandoned living there as well. My neighbors and I have been complaining to the township about both homes since about 2016. We've spoken endlessly to the township code enforcement officers. Now, I believe you have a package from them. Okay. So I don't know if you're able to read it out loud, but I believe it lists all the code violations.
Yes.
And the history of lack of enforcement. So the township code enforcement officers believe their ability to enforce any penalties against their owners for their egregious lack of maintenance of these properties to be largely limited to cutting grass, repairing fences, and painting the shutters. They have cited them with these violations, but these don't go nearly far enough. Obviously, they don't even begin to address the dangers and economic consequences these buildings pose to myself and my neighbors. So I have 2 daughters. My neighbor across the street is a recent widow with 2 daughters. Abandoned homes present risks. The condition of these houses deter potential home buyers and lower the prices of our homes, which is unfair as we maintain our properties and pay our taxes. The properties are on the verge of collapse. They pose a fire hazard, a vagrancy and vandalism hazard, and are a source of infestation. We have a dozen cats living under one of the decks, and my neighbors next to 23 Quaker have had snakes. This is encouraged by the overgrown property covered in dead leaves and branches. Teenagers in the neighborhood have taken to trespassing at 19 Candle and committing acts of vandalism, such as breaking windows. There was a recent police report filed last week. We have spoken and written to the mayor, but we have not seen any relief for our concerns. I personally have tried to speak with the Township Legal Counsel, who notably and repeatedly refuses to take any individual calls from residents, understandably because you represent the township and not any individual taxpayer. But nevertheless, it is frustrating and we feel like we don't have any recourse. It is my understanding that both properties have multiple uncured violations against them relating to lack of maintenance. If you would be so kind, Councilman, or I'm sorry, Business Administrator Coscola, could you
You have
list?
to address the chair, and then he'll address.
Keep going with your statement, and
I would
then I'm
appreciate
going
if
to ask
that can
him
be
to
read into the record, please. Because
finish your
yes,
statement, then
I will.
we'll go there.
So basically, I understand, and of course, Mr. Baker, you have more land use experience than I do. I do not practice real estate law. But if this was a 2-family residence, there would be fiduciary obligations under NJ 4048 that would give you the authority to abate a nuisance. And an abandoned property is de facto considered a nuisance, a public nuisance. That's particularly the case for structures that are abandoned or in severe disrepair. You'll see more photographs. You'll see that also the list of code enforcement violations. But anyway, the legal standard for a nuisance action is that the building must be unfit for human habitation, occupancy, and use, which these clearly are. When there was vandalism to the Candle Lane property, police from East Brunswick were called out. They came out, they said the property is a tear down, and that's the better looking property. Okay,
Do you
both
have
of
much
these-
more in your statement, because you've exceeded your time?
I'm
but-
almost done.
Okay, I'll let you go.
That's actually pretty much it. They're a hazard to the community. I have a number of my neighbors here who are also going to speak. I assume that they're allowed their 5 minutes as well.
Certainly.
But I would ask the township to condemn the buildings so that they can be torn down, and that's my request. They are beyond repair, and they are costing all of the rest of us.
I don't
So,
disagree with you.
thank you.
And based on the pictures you've shown, I mean, I don't get over that way often, but I do agree that that's beyond what should be the standard in East Brunswick.
And it has been the case for many, many years. Thank you very much.
Mr. Criscuolo, you have some form from, or
Sure.
something from, I don't necessarily believe you need to read it into the record, but if you want to
I'll summarize if
pass
you
it
wish.
on, but I'd like
I
to
don't have
pass it on.
complete practice for it.
No, but I'd like to pass it on to Ms. Lawful, and she could add it to the minutes of the meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just a high-level synopsis. 19 Candle has 7 violations on it, removing hazards of nuisances, maintenance for fence repairs, outside storage units that have debris on the outside, a streak of mold that's coming down the side of the house, a general disrepair. They haven't registered also as a vacant property because they're saying they're there. Lawn maintenance, since then has been cut. The grass, that's one thing we are allowed to do. Summonses were issued and sent out to them, and they have a potential court date of August 9th at 3 p.m.
Why is that court date so far out?
That's when they're scheduled. I mean,
Yeah, but it's our court. No?
the 6 lantern violations were sent out as well. The violation there was removal of hazards and nuisances, natural growth trees, shrubs, weeds overgrown. The entire property covered a tennis court and a pool and multiple tree limbs downs. Summonses were issued for the above and was sent out certified mail, potential court date, August 9th, 3 p.m. There was also a letter sent to them by our engineering inspector for sidewalk repair on as well for Heath sidewalk. 23 Quaker, they have a whole list of violations as well. I won't go through them all. You heard them in the previous. Jill, our code enforcement officer, was able to get in touch with the son of the property owner and provided him with 30 days in which to get it complete, and that compliance date was 7/12 of 22. The grass was cut. The son also said he's going to rent equipment and start cleaning up the property to sell. And once again, the court, if he's showing good faith, will give him additional time. So she was able to do that. But there's a whole host of violations that was sent out. Now, violations have gone out to these people in the past, and as most of you people know, with COVID, the court was not issuing any bench warrants for things to be cleaned up. We also have a few other handful of properties in town, similar situations that we're dealing with in and out of court, tracking the people down, so on and so forth. That's the status of where we are now.
I think we need to
and
send the
I'll-
health department there as well.
Excuse me?
I think we need to send the health department there to review these properties. You know, if there are several rodents, feral cats, a pool that's not being maintained. I remember back when I was
It's
a kid.
it's all in the
I worked
citation.
for Joan Farrell, who was our code enforcement officer, as a private contractor, and I was sent to clean out pools and everything because they were mosquito hazards. There were a lot of other things going on. So, I mean, we need to send every organization, every office that we have over to these properties.
Yeah, I can notify the mosquito. I could notify the health department and the mosquito commission to go out and treat the properties and so on, if there is any mosquito larvae there. But we are also limited by the law what we can do with a particular property.
Right.
I'm very familiar with the statute and the requirements there, because Mr. Baker and I have dealt with this in other communities as well. So, I'll turn it over to Mr. Baker if you want to make any
if there's
comments.
a feral cat problem, we can't really do much about that. As long as the resident is not feeding them. But, Mr. Baker, do you have anything to add? Otherwise, the mayor.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I don't want anybody leaving thinking that the township has not been following through regularly on sending out notices to the owners of the properties who have repeatedly either demonstrated that they don't have any intention of living in this property or maintaining it, but at every juncture where we sent something out, they have either done the minimal amount of work to actually pass the requirements that the township has, or we got stuck in the conundrum the last 2 years of the not issuing of bench warrants, and a lot of people in town who have not maintained property took advantage of that opportunity, not just those 2 properties. There's people who have been hoarders, there's people who have been not maintaining property for years, took advantage of the fact that they knew the courts would do nothing. But my question is, could we speak to the ability to the township's part to condemn property? Because clearly, in the area of redevelopment, we had no problem asking and requesting support to condemn property that was not being maintained. And I think we need a clear explanation as to why this might be a more difficult thing to do. Frankly, I think you should give the coordinates to Putin, and I'm sure he'd figure out a way of knocking that down in 2 seconds. But short of doing that, how can we move beyond what we've been doing already and have been unsuccessful at getting the work done? I support the residents who clearly have a problem, and you're not the only area in town where we've had people that have this type of problem.
Mr. Baker,
Good.
just speak to the condemnation or
Good
demolition.
question. It's a good question, Mayor. It's condemnation used 2 different ways. One is the traditional way that we think of condemnation, which is a taking of a property for fair market value for a public purpose under the eminent domain statute. The other use of the word condemnation is condemning a building because it's unsafe and demolishing it. Condemnation for a public purpose requires an appraisal, buying the property, and that's not what we're talking about here. Condemnation for a health hazard, you need to go through an incredible amount of steps, notice property owners, notice the mortgage holders, and as the mayor points out, the property owner can do a little bit and get out of it. However, as Mr. Criscola and I have worked on this before in a neighboring town, when it really gets bad, we have demolished houses and put a lien on the property for the cost of demolishing the house. The administration has reached out to me. I have a partner who does this as one of his areas of practice. They're looking at these properties. I don't think that they meet the requirements for being condemned and bulldozed, but we will see more as we get to the court dates. It is a very, very high standard for going in and taking someone's property and demolishing it without having to pay for it. But it's a work in progress. I don't want to discuss litigation or potential litigation at a meeting. I will say I'll give you my phone number. You can call me at the office anytime. It's not. Come on up.
Let's do it from up here. Hold on. This is not from over there. This is from here, and so we can. One thing I wanted to ask Mr. Baker, and yes, you can come up next. But Mr. Baker, what about us tightening up our township ordinances in these maintenance requirements?
It's generally not an ordinance issue. It's generally statutory or property rights issue.
Okay.
One question.
Yeah.
How bad are the taxes? Are the taxes paid at all?
They're paid.
Taxes are paid.
All of them are paid up to date.
And not the water.
Not the water bill.
Okay.
Okay. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Carolyn Bars. I live at 20 Candle Lane.
Okay.
And I'm here with my neighbors for the same purpose. I think what's a little unique about our problem is that we have two on the same street. And I'm a realtor, so I'm aware of other abandoned properties throughout the town. But mostly they're singular properties. What I would like to address is this problem's been going on to my knowledge, since 2016. The property on Quaker has been abandoned since 37 years. They live on Beaver Dam and apparently have no interest a couple of blocks away, and they could come and maintain this property. It seems that every time the township does something, just like Mayor Cohen stated, it's only a Band-Aid. This picture that I'd like to show you is from 2017. As you'll notice, the shutters.
We can't hear you.
Okay.
Which one? The mic
All
there.
right. Mayor? Okay. If you'll notice on the picture, the shutters are in need of painting, and that's exactly what got done. The present pictures that I have that I took the other day, the shutters are in excellent shape, and the rest of the house has completely deteriorated. These are pictures. The small ones are from 2017. The large ones are from today, yesterday, and the house is in total disrepair.
Can we have them in the minutes, these photos? Do you need that?
The gentleman was there from the family that, as you can, you will see, the grass was well more than 3 feet high. It's not only the grass, it's growing through the sidewalks. The ivy obscures the sidewalks. There's sidewalks that are heaved, and none of this has been maintained. Sorry.
Nope, got it.
Okay. So the gentleman was there, and he cut the grass. This is the picture of after he cut the grass. Very little difference. This is the driveway after he left. This is another picture of the driveway after he left. Whatever is being done to the property is being done surely and solely for the purpose of doing the absolute minimum. And all of us neighbors, we're suffering. We're suffering because it's unsafe. We're suffering because it's a fire hazard. And we're suffering because we have two of them in our immediate area. This is our next problem. This is the house on Candle Lane. This is the way they're maintaining it. That's the front door. This is her frontage. This is siding that they never completed painting for 10 years. When I spoke with Carolyn Witz, she told me she was living there. And I said, when I knock on the door, you're never there. You never answer. She told me that she's in the back enjoying her backyard. Okay? Then we go to her property on Lantern Lane. Lantern Lane is full of cut-down trees, numerous signs that say under our surveillance, private property. This at one time was a beautiful tennis court. It's completely covered with leaves. And of course you can see her private property signs. And this used to be a tennis court. We have trees, branches hanging over on the sidewalk. It's dangerous for the children that wait for the bus. The sidewalks are so uneven, filled with debris. She will not, or I shouldn't say she will not. They don't even clean the sidewalks. This is what children waiting for the school bus have to endure to sit there.
Are you almost finished with?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
These are very, very informative.
Beg your pardon?
They're very informative.
Well, this is just to give you another
That looks unsafe to me.
of
Completely.
how deep the sidewalks are.
That was like
Carolyn
Same
swears,
thought, sir.
excuse me, Carolyn swears that she lives in the house, except she's never there. As of late, because I guess she was notified of the violations, her and her husband have been visiting the house periodically. As I stated before, I'm a real estate agent. I looked up the tax records. This is the wonderful home that she lives in.
find out where she's registered to that.
I think it's
Find out where she's
unfair that my
registered.
neighbors and I have to endure this. I think it's unsafe. I think it's unsanitary. We have numerous cats. As my neighbor Marina just stated, we had recent vandalism. The kids are hanging around the house now because they know it's unoccupied. And worse yet, on Candle Lane, there's a pool. The pool has not been maintained in many, many, many years. And my sincerest regret would be if one of the kids should fall in that pool and drown. So please, let's not put a Band-Aid on an obvious problem that needs to be taken care of. And I thank you for your time.
Can you restate the name of the woman who owns the...
Carolyn and Michael Witt.
That's Lantern.
Carolyn and Michael... Yeah, Carolyn
Okay.
and Michael Witt own Lantern,
Okay.
and they own Candle Lane.
All right.
Okay?
Yes.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Thank you.
We don't need any more photos, just so you know. I think we've
I
got plenty.
prepared my photos, but anyway, they basically show exactly what the last two people had shown. I want to show you my view from my house. My name is Richard Rollman. I live at 16 Candle Lane. When I look out of my front door, I'm looking right at that house. It's catty corner from my house. We've looked at this view for the last 22 years. Nobody has ever come to clean up until a couple days ago. And again, that was just very, very minor cleanup. There's no number. When I drove by today, I wanted to put the address. I had to extrapolate from the houses that were right next door, but it's 23 Quaker. One thing that we noted, again, I'm not going to go over what everybody else had said for the record, but one thing that actually my wife noted was she looked at the water bills. So we were looking at my water bill from 16 Candle Lane, and we used about 7,000 gallons of water for a fully occupied house. This house on Quaker, 23 Quaker, used 10,000 gallons. So what that's telling me is there must be a massive leak in that house. So it is absolutely a health hazard. Nobody can get into that house with the leaves that are right on the steps. You can't even go into that house. It's impossible. So God only knows what's going on in that house. And again, we all play by the rules, so we're asking the township to play by the rules also. And again, ask yourselves, would you want to live across the street or next to a house like this?
No.
I'm going to enter these.
Sure. I can guarantee you that every council person sitting up here will be taking a ride up and down Quaker and Lantern within the next few days.
Hi, I'm Holly Beckman. I live at 22 Candle Lane. I live directly across the street from the Witt House, and on the diagonal is the Quaker Lane house. It is dangerous. I can tell you firsthand, my husband called your office 2 years ago, Mayor, when I was almost struck down by a huge limb that fell from that tree and almost hit me and my dog. 2 days later, someone from the township came and did some cutting of the trees. I've gotten poison ivy from walking my dogs around the corner. It's growing onto the sidewalk. I mean, it is a danger. I have 2 teenage boys. We take very good care of our property, clean up our leaves. Big windstorm comes, they've never cleaned their leaves from last year, blow onto our lawn. It's just not fair. I've been living at my property for 15 years. This is what we've been dealing with. I think, what are you going to wait until a tree actually falls on someone and kills someone? They're just not taking care of their properties. So hopefully you guys can do something.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else from over here? Hello.
Thank you, first of all. My name is Cindy Schneider. I live at 18 Candle Lane, right across from the abandoned house on Quaker. I love East Brunswick. I lived in Fox Meadow. Before that, I moved to my home in 2000. I'm active on several committees in the town. I know the protocols that have to occur. My husband recently passed away.
Sorry.
He maintained that property because we love our home. We've had parties, we have guests. I have 2 daughters that also graduated East Brunswick High School. And he cleaned it and took care of it because we care about our home. I called the police several months ago because my husband was in the hospital and I was scared, and it ended up to be Marina's daughters because one of their friends were waiting for a ride. This is ridiculous. I mean, I understand the situation, but we are concerned. And it is a fire hazard because there's paper bags with leaves that have been on the front porch for many, many years. And now with the vandalism occurring, I'm sure it's just a matter of time. And then we have a big problem. So, thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
How you guys doing? Dave Herrera, 32 Cosgrove Court. I first wanted to just thank Joe. I drove by my house the other day, and there was a "Your Speed Is" sign, so that was great on Cranberry. I don't typically go that way, but I did get to see that sign, so I appreciate you putting it out there. You can actually hear the trucks like doing the air brake to slow down, so it is working. I do appreciate that. Just a couple things. Obviously, very excited to see the redevelopment signs up there. I want to make sure I heard you correctly. You said that we were going to be the tax revenue that would create. So I don't know if in between the last year or so we renegotiated with the developer, or is that still a payment in lieu of taxes type of building we have going
Not at this point.
At this point, it's still a pilot program.
At this point, they're paying regular property tax.
Okay, so it's not a pilot program anymore. The development on Route 18.
The development will be once it's started.
Okay.
Once
so
it's completed.
It'll be a payment. Okay, got it. And then to you guys, you're doing exactly what you need to be doing because me and my mom came here multiple times and asked about a lawn sign, if you want, or about the lawn sign, about the "Your Speed Is" sign. It's campaign season. And that's what you need to do. You need to keep coming here. You need to keep asking for these things to get done. And since we're speaking about the redevelopment, majority of that redevelopment was condemnation of their properties. So just know that when East Brunswick wants to get something done and something removed and condemned, it can be done because those properties were deemed unsafe, like the law firm on the corner of 18 and Edgeboro Road, because the grass was unkept and other things like that. That property is now condemned part of the redevelopment zone, and nobody really lives near there. So for you guys who are living in that area that want to see your property safe, keep coming here and keep pushing. They can say whatever they want, but you're doing the right thing. Just keep showing up here, and hopefully they get that taken care of for you.
My name is Laura Faria. I live at 21 Quaker Drive. We just bought our house about a year and a half ago. We live next to the disaster that they showed all of you. Snakes coming onto our property. My husband's arms right now are covered in poison ivy because everything is growing into our yard from all the poison, all the ivy that's on the streets. So I'm just here to make my presence known, support them, and hopefully we get something done. Thank you.
I will be there this week.
Thank you.
Alex?
Alex Gilman, 6 Douglas. I just wanted to make a remind people, if they're not familiar with something that is significant this month. As you know, we're talking about things like Pride, which is happening this month. Caribbean Heritage Month is this month, and National Park Recreation Month, which we did the proclamation this month for. Today is a very important day because today is National PTSD Awareness Day, and June is also PTSD Awareness Month. Now, the reason I wanted to bring this up is because there's very few times I actually see this mentioned. And I think it's incredibly important to realize that as we are currently dealing with the rise of mental health, needing mental health care and observation of these things, PTSD is something that is very much overlooked, as most people assume it's just because of, war or some other traumatic event. But it is another systemic thing that happens all over the place. And there's a stigma towards people with any type of mental health, especially this. And this needs to be addressed. I think this needs to be brought into the forefront that this is a silent killer for some people when they have these things. Mental health is not like a physical ailment. You just like if you get a burn, that burn is noticeable. If you get sick, you're noticeable. Physical sickness. Mental health is not something that is well noted because of that stigma, because you don't feel you're afraid to be judged, you're afraid to be weak, you'll feel vulnerable, and that is something that is just human nature to be in the best shape you possibly can, because appearances matter, status matters in many cases, and appearing weak can be considered less desirable. So I just wanted to bring that up, that today is PTSD Awareness Day, June is PTSD Awareness Month, and that to all those who are, if they watch this recording, either now or in the future, that we care about you and we want the best for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Yes.
Antoinette Evola, 45 Merrill Avenue. Please excuse how I'm dressed because I just came from coaching. I wanted to bring some good news today. In 2020, my son's baseball team won state championship the first time, right? They won districts, they won states. So this is the third year in a row that this weekend they just won districts again. And hopefully, because of 2020's pandemic, they won states, they weren't able to go on to regionals. So hopefully this week they accomplish states and then they're able to go to regionals. Bringing up my son, I live on Merrill Avenue, and those of you guys who don't know which one that is, that's the one that's right down the block from the high school. And my children are now riding their bicycles, alone, helmets, everything. But a lot of cars are coming down the block the wrong way. And I think it was last year or the summer before, I know there was a young man who was killed on his bicycle. So we do have that speed sign that Dave's block now has. But I don't know what we can do to stop these cars from going down the wrong way. It's concerning because I am teaching my children obviously how to look both ways, but when they're coming, they're not coming at the miles per hour that's supposed to be for the block. They're coming at full force, and I'm concerned that one of the kids are going to, they're riding their bikes now in pods, so it's like 8 or 9 of them at a time. So I'm concerned that if the kids are, they're only 11, 12 years old, they're looking this way, the car's going to come from this way. The other thing that's concerning about my block is the miles per hour is 25, and the cars do not do 25 down that block. They're doing like 40, 50, and these aren't first responders. These are regular cars just trying to zip right through. So obviously there was that young man who passed away on his bicycle. I don't want my son or my daughter or their friends to be those next victims. So like I said, I don't know what the requirements are for speed bumps. I don't know what the requirements are for stopping the traffic coming the wrong way. A lot of my neighbors are elderly. They've been there for years and years and years, and they are afraid to even correct the person coming down the block because they said that they've heard stories where the drivers are aggressive and they don't want to be a target the next time. So my neighbors have asked me to come here on their behalf and ask you guys if there's something you can do to stop the traffic from coming down the block the wrong way. Thank you.
Thank you. And Antoinette, in regard to your son's team.
Yeah.
If they win states, please let us know.
Yeah, no, the mayor came to our
We'd like
state
to,
championship.
we'd like to
in 2010.
recognize them here at a council meeting.
Thank you. No, 12U's going to Cooperstown. They didn't win districts this year.
Yeah.
But 9U and 11U have won districts, and state starts on Wednesday, so it should be, fingers crossed, going to regionals.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Mr. Piscula, is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Yes, Mrs. Winston.
Good evening, Council. Dana Winston, 44 Fresh Ponds Road. I'll be very brief, as I normally am when I come up here. Today, I spent time at the Senior Center with our wonderful senior citizens. I cannot tell you how blown away I was by how well that center is doing. It is thriving. It is packed. These people are happy. They're busy. They're socially connected. There are activities all day long, so much so that getting my class scheduled next is up in the air because there's nothing open in the calendar for months ahead. And I just want to say well done. It's just fantastic. And if you have an opportunity to go there, if you're old enough to get in, it makes me feel like East Brunswick might be a viable place to retire. They had a ball, and they're so happy over there. We're doing something right, and we do a lot of things right, but that's definitely one of them. And I just want to say thank you, and everyone should know.
Thank you, Mrs. Winston, for all your time over there, too. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
Hi, Cindy Rollman, 16 Candle Lane. I'd like to thank you for listening to all of us and our neighbors, and I was curious to know what are our next steps and how can we follow up, and will we hear from the council again?
Thank you. This isn't, we're not doing a question and answer here.
Well,
It's just my statement.
But as the next steps, he said, is August 9th
Okay.
in court.
In court, right. It goes from the administrative form of the government over to the judicial form of the government. I mean, I know our third and fourth graders recognize, the different legislative, right?
Right.
Administrative, judicial.
Got it.
So it's in judicial section. We can't interfere with that process. They got the right to come to court.
Okay.
But we will simultaneously look at the issue of condemnation.
So, Jim, let me suggest this. There's some additional things brought up that were new to me. I'm sure we'll be discussing with code enforcement any additional things that aren't on that list now that the new items have been brought to our attention.
Okay, so that one house has a court date, but the 23...
Both of them do.
Okay. Both of them, thank you.
Yes.
And then on a separate note, we will look into the idea of condemnation, which is completely different than condemnation, as the attorney said, when it comes to redevelopment. Two different forms of condemnation. I didn't think you got that, so I had to say it a second time. And I'm glad you appreciate it. And for the record, there was no property in the redevelopment area that has been condemned.
We can't go into a property, ma'am. It's against state law.
There's no back and forth from the audience, but, if more questions, you can contact Mr. Cusculo directly, and he will bring in the proper people, whether it's the police department, code enforcement, engineering, whomever, fire. He will notify, but if you have questions, I'm not answering questions. But if you have questions, please contact Mr. Cusculo in the business administrator's office, and he will direct it to the proper agency. But mind you, as I said earlier, I can bet you dollars to donuts that every person on this, every council person here will be on Candle Lane and Lantern before the end of the week.
Council President, as we were sitting here, I sent a message to the Health Department and to the Mosquito Commission for a review of the properties.
Good. Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
Good evening. As an elected official in another community in Lake Como, I want to thank you.
Name
I'm sorry,
and
Nick
address for the record.
DeMora. And I'm actually here, I'm the executive director of LEAD, Law Enforcement Against Drugs and Violence.
For the fair at the
Right, the mall. So, but I want to first thank you for that ordinance on the raffle permits, because I'm bringing it back tomorrow to my community as an elected official. I think that's a great thing. So I learned something tonight. So, first of all, I'm just here, I know it's on the consent agenda, I'm just here to, personally, as the executive director of the largest drug violence prevention program taught in schools in the state. We're very proud of working with East Brunswick. Officer Wright is a valued member of our leadership team. He's a trainer. He's also a part of our digital threat assessment program. And we're really looking forward to this event and to be able to make some money to fund additional resources for East Brunswick. Whenever we run an event in a community, we provide resources for that community. I don't want people to think that the state chapter of LEAD is coming in here and the local chapter is not benefiting from it. So I wanted to just make sure that everyone understood that. We're here to help you. We're very proud. I know Officer Wright was featured on CNN.
I was just going to say that.
Yep. And that was our public relations firm that set that up.
Great.
And so we work very closely. We provide, so everyone knows, we provide free workbooks for every community in this state. Training for any of our grant communities, which this is one of them, is free of charge. And we're very proud. Our Officer Wright's training alone, probably we've invested a few $1,000s into his training. So I want to thank you. We're not just coming in here trying to do a for-profit carnival. We're trying to do We're trying to do a nice event.
Can you give everyone the dates, location?
Yes, it's July 21st through the 31st. It's 10 days. It's listed longer on here, but that's set up and takedown. So it's actually 21st to the 31st. It's going to be in the Macy's section, right by Olive Garden, right on Route 18. We run these all over the state. We just ran one in Westfield, Garden State, in Paramus. And we have a close relationship. Actually, this week we're at the Lead Fest State Fair in West Windsor. And the Paramus Police Department is actually opening up our Saturday event. We have the Marshall Tucker Band playing.
Wow.
So we work very closely with our local communities. And so I wanted to personally, I know I didn't have to come up here and speak, but I wanted to personally come up here and thank you. Officer Wright's a great asset. You're very lucky to have him. And
we thank you for what you're doing for communities.
And we promise you
and
we're going to work
volunteering.
hard to keep it safe. It's fenced in. We have a really good system in place.
What are the hours?
Ms. Lawful, do you have the thing in front of you? I think it's...
Oh, it's on the resolution?
I think it's in the...
I just looked at the dates.
It's in the application.
I know we open up at night during the week at 5 and we go to, I guess, 11.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just talking more about opening time so people knew.
Yeah, 5 o'clock, and on weekends, 1 o'clock.
Okay.
It's on their website, too. It's Lead Fest, and if you look at the East Brunswick portion, a flyer comes up.
Perfect.
Is there anything, I'm sorry.
That's
can I
right.
talk?
Go ahead.
Is there anything that you could highlight that a good event, I mean, I know the whole thing is excellent, but is there any event that you want to highlight that's going to be in East Brunswick?
Well, we're going to allow the police department to set up a booth and promote it. If you know any community groups that want to promote anything at the event, we would be more than happy to give them a free space to do that. That's it.
Any bands or anything?
No. This is a pretty, we don't have limited space.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's. I think it's good. We've run one in Paramus. It went well. We did actually 3 weekends there.
Well, I hope this is the first of many.
We hope so too, and God bless you. I know you have a lot of things, and thanks again for that ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion. I'm going to ask Mr. Baker to respond to a few questions that were brought up during this session here. One being condemnation in the redevelopment zones, and the other one being condemnation of a property, a law firm on the corner of Edgeboro and Route 18, as well as the proposal for speed bumps.
So on the comment, I'm not aware of any condemnation of a law firm on the corner of Edgeboro and and Route 18. As the mayor said, for the property that Mr. Wendell was speaking about, Councilman Wendell was speaking about, there was no condemnation for the, we know as the Gap Mall. That was all private purchases and at a considerable sum paid by the private developer. And again, condemnation of a property that is unsafe is a whole different thing. Speed bumps, they're frowned upon, they're liability issues, and our insurance carrier most likely would not let us put them in. That does not mean that the mayor, the administrator, won't be on the phone to the Traffic Safety Division tomorrow morning asking them to do some directed patrols out on Merrill Avenue.
And to that point, Mr. Criscuolo, maybe you can mention to them, we've put up a number of these flashing signs. Maybe we can put some flashing stop signs if they're actually going the wrong way as often as indicated. Maybe it would be more, more understood, or a flashing one-way sign or something that would,
The only ones that we would have to look into the flashing stops. There's other ones that are frowned upon because of the strobe effect that it has. It's usually done in an area, for a limited amount of time, and there'll be problems with the residents there.
I just know we have them on Stratford.
Yeah,
for
talk to
speed.
traffic safety. And see what they
Talk to
suggest.
traffic safety. I know we have speed signs on Stratford that flash going both ways. So let's just have traffic safety look into it, and if necessary, if Ms. Evola contacts them or contacts you, let's get her a directed response.
Well, maybe it's even a spotlight, like a street light, because sometimes you could be driving and you don't even realize it's a one-way.
Street lights are very difficult to install within that type
Something, because sometimes you can miss
but-
the sign.
All right. Seeing that we closed the public portion, thank you for the explanations, sir. We're going to move on to our consent agenda. There's a couple of things I want to highlight. Mr. Criscuolo already talked about a couple of them, but I just want to highlight the shared service agreement between the Board of Education and the East Brunswick Township for summer travel. I'd like to thank you, Joe, for working on this. I've been harping on you for probably a couple of years. And I'm glad you kind of pushed this one over the goal line, at least for help at this point. The township, the residents of the town already own the buses, whether it's the Board of Education or whomever. So I appreciate getting this started.
There is, some modification to the original.
Yes.
That Mr. Baker prescribed in his memo to you. I'd ask that the agreement be approved with Mr. Baker's amendment affixed into that, and then it will have to go back to the Board of Ed for their approval on July 12th.
So Mr. Baker, we're going to amend 17446 to
Include the language in my
include the
memo.
language in your memo today.
Correct.
The other one I wanted to mention is 17447. It's just a resolution inserting a special item of revenue into our budget, and this is, again, another grant received under the many, many, many grants that have been received under the mayor's administration. This is for $7,500, but, one may think it's a small amount, but it's just in addition to the 20 million plus that have been received. Correct, Mr. Mayor?
Absolutely. It just literally got notice that we received a significant grant approval. It's got to be assigned by the governor for money towards our ice rink.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Very good. Very good. That's a great piece of news. We received grants for our community arts center from the state. Now we're receiving some grant money for our ice rink that is going to be
When do we
moved
see the
over.
new plan?
I'm sorry?
When are we going to see the new plan?
It's going to take some time. We probably won't see plans until at least end of summer, preliminary plans. Thank you for that information. So looking at our consent agenda, we have Resolution 17436 to Resolution 17448. Does anyone need to have anything separated? No? Seeing none, can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilwoman Sullivan. Can I get a second? Second by Councilman Bahal. please call the roll.
Councilmember Hall?
Yes.
Councilman McAvoy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zambicki?
Yes.
And Council President Wendell?
Yes. All right. Lastly, we have an ordinance requiring a public hearing date of July 11th. This is ordinance 22-16. It's a bond ordinance providing a supplemental appropriation of $3.3 million for various water utility improvements in and by the Township of East Brunswick in the County of Middlesex, New Jersey, and authorizing the issuance of $3.3 million worth of bonds or notes of the Township to finance the cost thereof. This is the ordinance. This is the bond ordinance that Mr. Criscuolo spoke about earlier regarding the additional costs for the Route 18 water main. Can I get a motion to approve this for a July 11th hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Any discussion? It was actually Councilwoman Sullivan and Councilwoman Zambicki, or was it? No, it was Councilman McAvoy. Councilman McAvoy. Pointed that way. I'm sorry. It's okay. And then Councilwoman Zambicki. Any
It was Bahal, actually.
Oh, Bahal? Okay. Got you way off. I was thinking that way, and I was just hearing second. Is there any discussion on this? No? Okay. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Hall?
Yes.
Councilman McAvoy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Zambicki?
Yes.
And Council President Wendell?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to the good of the cause. I just have one thing I want to add. For the public, basically, we have canceled our July 25th agenda meeting. We will still be having the July 11th meeting, but we will not be having a July 25th meeting. Most of the members of council here have other obligations that evening, so we'll just move on to our August meeting after that. It's usually middle of summer. We don't have a lot of work that we're doing anyhow. Anyone else for the good of the cause? No? Sharon?
Yeah.
Please.
A couple of things. Remember EB Fireworks, July 4th. It starts at 6 o'clock. Rain date is the July 5th. The VFW 133 East Brunswick. The walk benefits our local veterans. Please come out and support that. And that's September 24th. And there's also a new one that I'm talking about. It's a charity walk and food drive at July 18th. It is at St. Joe's School, but it benefits Replenish. And as we know, there's a lot of people out there that needs food, and especially in the summer, we sort of forget our food banks donating. So just remember to donate. The registration is $10, and that includes a T-shirt. So hopefully people can come to that.
Thank you. Councilwoman Zambicki, you had something?
Yes, just wanted to comment on Resolution 17446, the Shared Services Agreement. I cannot say how important this is because in our rec meeting that we had this month, Mike Reisner spoke that the bids for busing came in so incredibly high due to the shortage of drivers for CDL and, of course, the cost of gas. It would have limited the programming that we could have done in the rec program and the DAISY program. So by doing this shared services agreement, we're opening up more opportunities for the kids, and it's brilliant to be doing this kind of work together. So thank you.
I don't disagree with you, and as I said earlier, I thank Joe and Victor Valesky and Bernie Juliana and anyone else over there for pushing this over the line. It's been something I know I've been trying to push for, and I'm sure Council Vice President McAvoy had a lot to do with it over there also. He's kind of our liaison to the school board, as well as, I guess, Councilwoman Zambicki now. But, this is a tremendous agreement to be...
and it's a 2-year agreement, so at least we don't have to worry about it next year either.
That's fantastic. I know we rejected bids once for the busing, and then we went out for a quick bid, and the bids came in, and we just kind of had to accept what we could. But
yeah, the Board of Ed buses are limited to like inside the township, so just keep that in mind. So
there'll be it'll be the board and the vendor service.
Right, exactly.
So the board events will be the Crystal Springs drives, the whatever summer theater rides, or soon to be in couple of years to come, the ice
skating rink,
right.
Things like that. So it's great. I truly appreciate all the hard work that went into it, Councilman McAvoy.
I was not going to chime in, but in doing my homework, I counted up Councilwoman Zambicki, 64 runs.
Wow.
There are 64 times that a bus is going to go to a location, pick up the kids, drive the kids to whatever the location is that they're going to be spending the day at, pick the kids up later, bring them home, yada, 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 but 64 times. And times X amount of dollars. Thank you, Mr. Baker. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. All right, anyone else for the good of the cause? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Council Vice President McAvoy. Can you get a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Zambicki. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.